Royal Enfield Interceptor 650, I think, has been just about one of the biggest things that's happened to motorcycling in this decade. Now, before I go any further, I'd like to shout out a warm welcome to all those new Interceptor fans that have subscribed to the channel. I think at the moment it's averaging about 1,000 subscribers a week. Welcome aboard and let's get started. Now, Motone Customs is a company that I've been working with for about two and a half years now. I discovered them quite early on in the life of this channel, and they do have a worldwide reputation for excellent quality custom motorcycle parts. I think they are regarded more as a supplier of parts for the Triumph Bonneville, but they do actually make a number of universal parts. Now, like all universal parts, they won't fit every bike on the market, but what I've been doing with Motone Customs is sorting through some of their products to see what is suitable for the Interceptor and what it isn't suitable for the Interceptor. So we're going to kick off today with their famous tank pads. I've already made two videos covering the fitting of these tank pads in the past, and I have made one slight alteration to my fitting technique in order to try and make this a little bit easier. As some of you will remember, I do come from a body shop background, so fitting parts like this to vehicles used to be sort of bread and butter work for me. It's something that just comes really easily. And I've become acutely aware over the last few months that not everyone sees this kind of thing the same way as me. It's a task that some people meet with much trepidation. So I've altered things very slightly just to make it a bit easier for the newcomer to the art that is customizing your motorcycle. Now, first things first, one thing that I have become aware of over the last few months is that there are some copies of these Motone pads kicking around, and there are some very cheap imitations on the market. It's entirely up to you which version you fit on your bike, but I'll just let you know about some of the problems that people have come across with these copy pads. First of all, by and large, the people or the vendors that are selling these pads don't supply them with any form of adhesive, or they may offer a type of adhesive as an optional extra. Some of the reported problems that I've had are that a lot of these adhesives don't work with these copy pads, and I think the reason for that is that in order to make them as cheaply as possible, they've used a rubber with a high silicon content, and that does severely limit the types of adhesive that will work with it. I know on a couple of occasions people have ended up with tank pads that won't stick to the tank, but the tank's been ruined because there's adhesive smeared all over the paintwork that won't come off. There are also one or two people that have experimented with this double-sided foam tape. Again, that's not ideal because it does tend to harbour moisture between the pad and the paintwork, which isn't a good scenario. These Motone pads are by no means the cheapest on the market, but when Motone design and produce a product, they make sure that it is the very best a customer can possibly buy. At the end of the day, you get what you pay for. Motone produced two pad designs, the classic and ever popular Union Jack design that I've already shown you, and for occasions where you don't feel the Union Jack is appropriate or you want something a little bit more understated, there's the classic Cafe Racer pinstripe design. Now, if you bought cheap pads in the past, the quality of these pads will be apparent the minute you open the box. They're made from a special blend vulcanised natural rubber, prized for its hard wearing capabilities and its resistance to the weather. On the back of each pad, precisely cut to fit the pad, is a 3M468MP 200MP series adhesive. Now, this is one of the highest quality automotive fixing adhesives available. It has a very high shear strength. It can easily be removed if you need to remove it without damage to the paintwork, but it is considered a permanent adhesive. It's resistant to all weather. It's also resistant to solvents, and that includes petroleum. So you're not going to have to worry about your tank pads falling off if you get a bit careless at the petrol pump and spill petrol all over your tank. Now, I've got experience of this particular type of adhesive going back over 25 years, and I've never had a problem with it. It's the best there is. Despite the fact that it is immensely strong, it's only 0.13 millimeters thick, which means the pads fit extremely closely to the tank. In fact, I noted when I fitted these pads to my T120 that Triumph themselves have now abandoned their old method of putting these pads on. They've followed Motone's lead, and they've also adopted this same adhesive for fixing their pads on. If you decide you want to remove these in the future, gentle heat from a hairdryer will loosen the adhesive up and allow you to peel it off without any damage to the paintwork. Right, preparation before you get started. The area to which you're going to affix these pads needs to be cleaned. You need to remove any residues of wax, grease or silicone to make sure you've got a perfectly clean surface to fix this adhesive onto it. For this, you can use a pure isopropyl alcohol. Don't use rubbing alcohol because it does contain natural oils. Or, like me, you can use panel wash, panel white, pre-paint white, whatever you want to call it. I use the U-POL brand. I've used it for years. It's not particularly expensive, and it has 101 uses in a motorcycle owner's garage. Clean the area to which you're going to affix the pad on your tank and make sure it's dry before you get going. When you've done that, just peel off at the top of your pad on the back the first 3/4 of an inch or an inch of the backing paper from the pad, then fold it over and crease it. Work out approximately where you need to put your pad, and then just use this exposed area to literally hang the pad on the side of your tank. Don't press it down too firmly. Believe me, this stuff really grips. All that's needed is a very gentle pressure just to quite literally hang it there. It will not fall off. Do the same on the other side, and then take your time to make sure that both pads are symmetrical and that you've got them in the same spot either side. Now, if you need to realign it, simply peel the pad that needs to be moved off and make the adjustment. The great thing about this adhesive is that providing it sits within its normal operating temperatures, that's between 15 and 38 degrees centigrade, it will allow you 15 minutes to 30 minutes adjustment time before it starts to bond properly. Now, I have heard some information going around that it actually helps to preheat the panel with a hairdryer or a heat gun, something like that, prior to application. It doesn't. It's something that you really should not do. I've checked 3M's directions for the use of this adhesive. I've also contacted 3M directly just to make sure that I haven't missed anything or that they haven't changed the specifications. Their opinion is that in this application you should not preheat the paintwork prior to fixing your pads on. It can alter the shear strength of the actual adhesive itself, causing it to come away from the rubber when you try to reposition, which can cause cavitation between the two surfaces that you're bonding, and that might cause problems further down the line. Normal room temperatures are all you need. If you're doing this in winter in your garage, get a heater set up a couple of hours before you do this job, and just make sure that the air temperature in the garage is up to normal room temperatures. That's all it needs to be. Now, check both pads from every angle to make sure you've got them exactly where you want them. Then it's time to remove the remainder of the backing paper from both pads and gently firm them down. At this point, check the positions again because they still might not be quite where you thought they were going to be. But if you find you have made a mistake, it doesn't matter. Motone have made sure that you've got the very best materials to work with here, and you've still got about 15 minutes adjustment time left. Now, it will have stuck quite firmly, but you can still peel it off and reposition it if you need to. And this is where people that have preheated the panels are going to have problems. That's why you shouldn't do it. Before firming them down properly, again, check it from every angle to make sure that you've got them both symmetrical. In a way, the beauty of these pads are that you can only really see them from one side or the other, so even if they are slightly out from each other, no one's going to notice. Once you're happy with the position of the pads, firm them down with the heel of your hand, starting at the top, moving evenly across the pads and work your way down. Now, once these pads have been firmed down and left for an hour, the adhesive will have achieved more than 50% of its total bond strength. you won't be able to move them again. After 24 hours, this adhesive reaches its full adhesion strength. But what I would say as a rule of thumb is leave it an hour before you ride the bike. Don't reapply any more polish around the area that you've cleaned for 24 hours to allow the adhesive to do its job and bond firmly. And that is pretty much it. Now, I always thought these pads looked great on the Bonneville, but I have to say, if I didn't know better, I would get the impression that these were made specifically for the Interceptor. These pads blend in with the knee cutouts perfectly. The dimensions just seem spot on. As well as being a classic vintage touch for a modern classic motorcycle, they do also have a practical use of protecting the paintwork from your knees and the abrasion damage that can occur, especially from wet, gritty waterproofs. To me, they're a must-have custom accessory for the Interceptor. Now remember, when you're shopping around for these pads, even though ones that you're looking at may look the same, if they don't say Motone on them, they are not Motone pads. Right, so I think that constitutes the very first custom part fitted to my Interceptor. I will, as usual, leave a link in the video description down below for both of these pads. That's the classic Union Jack pad that I've fitted to the bike and the classic Cafe Racer pinstripe pad. I'll also leave an Amazon link for the U-Pull panel wipe if anyone needs some. Once again, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you have, please leave a like and subscribe to this channel. I will be back on Friday. I think I've got a pair of those brass chain adjuster blocks coming in from Motone for the Bobber Black. So until then, please ride safely and I'll see you soon.